our Koran book, our textbook I have downstairs. And so someone will have to tell the page number if they have it. Debbie, I see you have the book. See if you can find chapter 3, Mishnah 19, if you can. And this is, of course, so foundational. It's kind of like the big question of questions. There's like the big questions. Why do bad things happen to good people? And questions such as, how is it possible that God knows everything and we still have free choice? So this is the question that Rabbi Akiva, who the most preeminent scholar of the Mishnah, he was, of course, the rabbi of our last Mishnah, and this is again from Rabbi Akiva. And he says this famous Mishnah on this famous question: how is it possible that God knows what's going to happen and we're totally free to choose? Anybody who's like really contemplates things would ask this question. It seems to be a contradiction in terms. So I don't know what page it's on in our Koran book, but I'm going to read the Mishnah to you. Hakol tzafui. Everything is seen or known. Everything is known. V'harashut netuna. Yet freedom of choice is given. Uvetuva olam nadun. The world is judged with goodness. V'akol lefi rov ha'ma'aseh. And all is according to the majority of deeds, which we'll explain. But let's first tackle the first part of our Mishnah, which is a question that everybody has had in some form throughout their Jewish journey. God knows everything. And the human being has freedom of choice. Okay, so on the simplest, most elementary level, if God knows what I'm going to do, then how am I free to choose it? And this is, of course, a very deeply philosophical, theological question, but it also really helps us understand, like, what does it mean to be free? How am I free when in my relationship with God? What is this all about? What is free choice? So Rabbi Akiva starts off saying, obviously, nothing is hidden from the Almighty. Of course, that was the first question after Adam and Chava eat from the tree, and all of a sudden they become aware of themselves in a whole new way. And the first thing that Adam does is try to hide. And we know the absurdity of trying to hide from God, because we know that God stands outside of time and space, and there's no hiding. There's no sense of, here's an area where there is no jurisdiction from God. God, of course, sees and knows everything. Of course, God is omniscient. Yet, at the same time, we learn from all of the sources, with exceptions, God doesn't interfere with the free choices of human beings. So there is an imperative of the exercise of man's free will that God, by and large, doesn't interfere with. There are incidents of interference. The most classic example of interference would be when it says that Pharaoh hardened his heart. Then Pharaoh hardened his heart. And in the next plague, Pharaoh hardened his heart. And at a certain point, it says, and God hardened Pharaoh's heart. In other words, there seems to be some godly interference in the free choice of the human being. But for the most part, we have to wrestle with two concurrent realities. God is absolutely omniscient and sees and knows everything, and you have free will to choose. And except for exceptions, God doesn't interfere with our free will. So we have to understand exactly what this means. But we the first thing, so the first reality is that this is true and this is true, and they seem to contradict. If you know what I'm going to do, how am I free to do it? God is totally omniscient, and I have free will to choose what I'm going to do. It's obviously one of like the kind of most complex, thorny questions, because it doesn't really, it seems like God's foreknowledge of what's going to happen by its very nature has to conflict with the fact that we're free to choose. So the first thing to understand is Rabbi Akiva is affirming both principles. And we're always encouraged by God to choose life. The most famous verse in the Torah is in the book of Deuteronomy on free choice, where God says, I've set before you life and death, blessing and curse, therefore choose life. God knows what choice we're going to make. And yet, as paradoxical as it seems, you still have freedom of choice. Okay, so the best tackling of this issue that I've personally come across is from Maimonides. Maimonides tackles this seeming paradox of foreknowledge and freedom to choose with the idea that when we talk about the Almighty, God's knowledge, we apply human terms, like we apply our human knowledge to God's knowledge. So the first thing that Maimonides says is know that God's knowledge is a totally different kind of knowledge than our knowledge is. So when we say God knows, it's not like we know what we know, but it's not just a quantitative difference, like he knows more. It's a qualitative difference. It's a different kind of knowing. So we see conflict when in fact there might not be any conflict at all. And the same is true, Maimonides continues on with the concept of time. So we also have a concept of linear time. But from a God perspective, God who creates time, time is a construct, then there really isn't any past, present, or future. It's all sort of like condensed into now, or whatever it is. There's no sense of he knows the past, but not the future. Time is a creation. So I'm reading now something that I read out of Maimonides. Bear in mind, the creator transcends the dimension of time. For the eternal, whether we can understand it or not, there is no past, present, or future. All things lie before him in a compressed, instantaneous now, as it were. So it's when we say that God knows the future, it's not that he's necessarily controlling events that curtail our free choice. But what it is saying is he knows what we're going to choose, because there really isn't past, future, present, and future. So so the first thing to know is this is true and that is true. But the second thing to know is really like almost like a humility on our part, which is when we think of time, or when we think of knowledge, we apply our sense of knowing something, or our sense of past, present, and future. But for you, this knowing is something totally different. So I really can live with this and this. You know everything. Time is a construct. You stand outside of time. There's no past, present, and future. I am truly free. I am truly free to choose. And another topic that I get into all the time in coaching is, well, how free are we? That's a little bit of a different point. It's really important to understand what it means to have free choice. I take it a lot from the more psychological perspective, which is, I was just talking, to clients today about this. If we don't do certain very important work in our lives, it's really not so clear we have free choice. We were talking about this last week in our discussion from Rabbi Akiva. Blessed is the human being, for he was created with free choice. But even more indicative of God's love for the human being is that he told him that he has free choice. And Rabbi Akiva quotes the Chumash, which shares that God tells man he has free choice. The point being that it's really easy to live with this gift of free choice and not know you have it. And if you don't know you have it, you don't exercise it. So it really, I always look at things on the more psychological level, and I'll say we are very much I don't know if condemned is the right word, but essentially condemned to repeating the scripts of our life and sort of the automatic beliefs and the automatic responses that we have in life from really the beginning of our lives. We're going to play those out again and again and again, unless we stop and we become conscious of this kind of negative spin cycle, what we're used to believing, our limiting beliefs, our old beliefs that still have so much power over us. We need to learn to stop and really understand that the part of us that's free is the real us, which isn't our thinking. So some people are conditioned to be people pleasers or controlling or perfectionists or whatever it is, and that's their automatic response. But those negative cycles aren't us. There are patterns, there are habituated ways of acting. Who are we? We are the part of us that can observe that thinking, that can observe those wheels, those negative patterns of thinking, the part of us that can be conscious to them and say, whoa, I don't need to think like this. If it's not working in my life anymore, if it's hurting my relationships, if it's getting in the way of health and happiness, I don't need to automatically go to this place anymore. I am free to choose a different thought. So I'm just getting back to our last Mishnah, which is that we have this incredible thing called free choice, but if we don't know we have it, then I'm not sure how much richer we are. A person really needs to understand, I'm only free to choose if I know what free choice is and I exercise it. And I think at least one of the foundational critical meanings of free choice is I'm not just my negative, insecure, cyclical, repetitive thinking. I am the consciousness that can observe my thinking and say, is this really the kind of thinking that I want to bring to the world? If you're walking around feeling bad or with results that you don't like, difficulty in relationships or difficulty in any sphere of your life, then chances are those results are really a reflection of what you're feeling, which is really a reflection of what you're thinking. So a person is truly free to choose, but they need to know they have free choice and they need to exercise it. And one way we exercise it is starting to notice our thought patterns and ask ourselves, is there a more empowering choice? Because I really am free to choose. I can't always control the events of my life or the circumstances of my life, but I can choose the perspective I'm giving them. I can choose the thought that I have about them. And that's one of the great ways that we are free to choose. So getting back to our Mishnah, yes, it really is this and this. God, of course, knows the future. There really is no future, present, or past for God. God stands outside of time and creates time. And yet somehow his knowing, whatever God's knowing really means, does not interfere with our ability to exercise this uniquely human quality within us, which is really awesome. The ability to say, I might want this, but I can aim higher and choose this. I am not just a prisoner of my drives or my habits or my beliefs or my old thinking. I am truly free to choose differently. And I think what's so important here for our Mishnah is what it's saying is not just that we're free to choose. Some of you know this. I've done a little bit of this work with some of you before. Some of you know my favorite tool, which is CTFAR. Some of you know this, but I can explain very quickly what it means. But in essence, it's not just that we're free to choose. It's that when we think in a certain way that is negative, that's insecure, it leads us to feel a certain way. Bad, sad, apathetic, insecure, whatever it is. When we feel that way, we react. We either don't take action or whatever it is, and our results are pretty, we don't get the results that we want. It's all born from the quality of our thinking. What this really means is that all of our results are just proof or evidence of the quality of our thinking. Let's say I'll give you an example, and then I'll bring it back to our Mishnah. Let's say your friend, forgot your birthday, right? She forgot your birthday, and your immediate thought is, she doesn't care about me. And when you think about how little she cares about you because you remembered her birthday and you made such a big deal about her birthday, when you think she forgot your birthday, you feel very sad that she doesn't care about you. You feel sort of sad and insecure, which leads you to ice her, not call her, to distance yourself from her, which leads to a less close relationship. Okay, there's a very important point in here. Now, let's flip it. Let's say your friend misses your birthday, and you say, and your immediate thought is, oh, we all blow it. She blew it. We all forget important things. It has nothing to do with her love for me. And when you think that way, you feel fine, totally good, which leads you to call her when you want to, and call her and connect, which leads you to have a closer relationship. So every result we have in our life, the not so great ones, the kind of yucky ones, the sort of sad ones, the kind of stuck, icky, frustrating ones, they are all evidence for the quality of our thinking. And the converse is also true. The good results we have, the closer relationships, the moving forward in our lives, the taking control of our lives, the taking control of our health, etc. Those are all indicative of the quality of our thoughts. All results are the proof or the evidence of the quality of our thinking. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, and C, by the way, C, the first letter in CTFAR stands for circumstance. It was the same circumstance. The friend forgot to call you on your birthday. So we see that what we choose to think, when we understand that the only area in our lives that we're truly free is our thinking or the meaning we give the circumstances of our lives, we understand that ultimately the results of our lives are just evidence for the quality of our thinking. Now, this sounds a little bit like, blah, but here's the important point. What this is saying is that we don't just have freedom of choice. When it says everything is foreseen on high, yet freedom of choice is given, in essence, what it's saying is your thoughts create your results. Hashem, of God, of course, knows what the results of your life are going to be. But because the results of your life are only evidence and more proof of the quality of your thinking, you also have freedom of results. I know this might sound a little bit like a little hard to follow, maybe, but it's very important. Obviously, everything that happens to us is from God. But because we are free in the area of our thoughts and the choice and the perspective we give on any given event, and the results of our life, what we have in our life, is just a symbol or a fruit, like an outcome of the quality of our thinking, we start to realize we are also in control of the outcome of our lives, which feels very like non-Jewish, because we learn everything is from God. It's all from God. It is. And you have control over the outcome of your life. I can't say this like emphatically enough. Not only do we have freedom of choice, but we are the masters of what happens in our life. Obviously, we can't control who gets sick. We can't control many, many things in our lives, but we have a lot more control of the results of our lives than we think we do. And at the same time, all the results of our lives are from God. So I want to, before we move on, I really want to stop here, and I know I don't usually do this, but I really want to take comments or questions, because we're bringing up some very foundational Jewish things, and I think that even if we focused only on the first part of the Mishnah for now, Dayenu, it would be enough, because I'm just going to sum up, and then I want to open it up to the group. This is the thorniest issue because it seems to be a contradiction. They're both true. They're both true. And I also have to understand that when we talk about time and knowledge, we use human terms. So the reality is, it is both true that God knows, and there is no sense of time, and we're free. And then we talked about what it means to live with free choice. And perhaps most importantly, we also realize that your choices lead to your results in your life. And we can plug this in with anybody if they want to give themselves a chance to do this. So, of course, God is responsible for the results in your life. And you are too. Okay, Leslie, is that your hand? That cartoon hand?
Yeah, that's, yeah. I was wondering if this is more like, comes down to, because you hear this a lot in non-religious context as well, like what happens to you, you can't control, but your reaction to it, you can control.
That's for sure.
And maybe that's a way that seems to be like reconcilable to me, because then that actually, the way you react does lead to the next thing that happens to you, possibly.
Not possibly, very much so. And before we move on to anybody else, I'd like you, Leslie, you can choose a very, non-private, just you can choose just a simple example of something that happened. And I want you to see how true this is. I want you to choose, and again, it could be a very light, nothing with nothing, but but something that you have some emotion attached to. I want you to tell me a circumstance. A circumstance has no emotion attached to it. It is what it is. You could say, like, I was late for work, or, I had to dismiss an employee, or whatever it is. I want you just to come up to tell me a circumstance that is neutral. It has no opinion in it. Something that happened that you attached some feelings to. I just don't want to push you to be too too intimate.
No. I mean, I'll just it was my mom's birthday this past weekend. We have a difficult relationship. I gave her a birthday gift. I called her best friend to ask, like, what do you think she would want? What's her favorite store? And I really spent a lot of time and effort. And her friend was like, you're the best daughter. She's so lucky, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, she opened it. She was clearly not thrilled with it. And then she said, like, why would you ask that person? She dresses like a teenager, like that.
Okay, so let's make it a circumstance. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. No. You worked very hard to buy your mother a gift. I don't want to get too much into your history with her, because that gets opinion in there.
Right.
So that gets your opinion in there. We're just looking at a circumstance. You consult with her friend, and mom comments on why in the world you would consult with this friend who dresses the way she does. Is that fair?
Mhm.
Okay, now what I want you to do is honestly, what we're doing is we're building an unintentional CTFAR, meaning we are building like when you have a hurt, an upsetting thought around it, where it will lead to. So what was the upsetting thought you had at that moment, if you could be as honest as possible?
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't she just say like, thank you so much for being so thoughtful, and then go return it, exchange it. I don't care, but just say thank you.
Okay, now I want you to say it in even more emotional terms as you felt it. Like what did you what
Well,
was
it
the
was,
thought?
I mean, I guess it was hurtful that she didn't acknowledge anything positive, and the time I spent and the care that I put into it was hurtful.
Okay, so she doesn't acknowledge any of the thoughtfulness, any of anything I do. Fair? Or she doesn't acknowledge anything that I put into this.
Fair.
When you feel that thought, meaning when you have that thought, when that's your thought, how do you feel emotionally, or even physiologically, like in your body? But let's just say, how do you feel emotionally?
Angry.
Okay. And I'm going quickly. If we were alone, we would do this much slower, but when you're
We've done
feeling
it.
angry, what?
We've done it.
Yeah, we have. When you're feeling, well, we did something different. When you're
Yeah.
feeling angry, how do you react? Or A stands for action, or inaction, or reaction. How do you react when you're angry with her for not acknowledging what you do for the relationship?
Well, I could have the old me in my relationship with her, which is why it sucks so bad, was I could very easily have said like, let her know that I was pissed, or just not called her for a few days, or turned around and told everyone I knew, called all my friends, how disappointing,
Okay,
all that.
vented, like kind of iced her out, not called her. And what would be your result?
Our relationship would just go further down a hole
The
into a worse
relationship would
place.
go further down the hole. Okay, now this is all connected to our Mishnah, if you're wondering the direction this is going in. That's what we call it, an unintentional CTFAR, meaning when I'm not aware, not that it's easy because I have deep feelings and deep histories with people, but when I'm not aware that I am truly free to choose the kind of thought that will lead to a better result, when I'm not aware of that, I go in a very unintentional direction. Now what we're going to do is build an intentional CTFAR, meaning mom opened the present, made a comment about the friend, and you are now free to choose, but it has to be something you believe. It can't be something that is absolutely absurd to you. Now, knowing that you have free choice to choose a perspective that will lead you to results that are healthy for you, what might you think? What might be your T, your perspective that you're giving this incident?
I mean, it's what I did, because it's so important to me as my mom gets older that our relationship not, be good. And so I just, my thought was, that's shouldn't have been her reaction, but that was her reaction. And I'm not going to let it like set me off and upset me. I love her. She's having a really hard time in her life for a lot of different reasons. And I'm just letting it go.
I'm choosing to let it go. I wouldn't have had this I wouldn't have wanted this reaction, but I accept that this is what it is. She's having a hard time. I'm choosing to let it go. When I think that thought, how do I feel within myself?
Peaceful.
peaceful. And when I'm like in a peaceful state, how do I react? What's my next move?
I said, I said, you should absolutely take it back and get whatever you want. And I would just want you to have what you love. And the reaction from that was
The result,
she was
yeah.
like, yeah, she was like, are you sure? I said, yes. And the result was the next day she said, will you come meet me at the store and help me pick something? Because I'd like both of us to love it.
Okay, now this is, thanks, Leslie. Thank you so much for doing that and illustrating this for us. Now, this is like a coaching exercise, but it is very connected to our Mishnah. Thank you so much, Leslie. The human
pleasure.
being is free to choose, but what we don't understand about choice is that it leads to our results. Leslie, if she had taken the very gravitational, deeply rooted reaction of she doesn't appreciate anything about me, which I'm sure has a very deep history in your past and in your dynamic as mother and daughter, then it would have led to feelings, and feelings cause reactions, and our reactions cause our results. So what is so powerful about free choice is that in essence, it's saying, not only are we free to choose, the results that we get in our life will be like proof of those choices. This is telling us we actually have some things we don't have control over. And in truth, we have control over nothing. It says that in the Talmud, it says, Kol bidei shamayim, chutz miyirat shamayim, which basically means everything is in the hands of God, except for the fear of God, except for one's choice of one's relationship to God. But it's as we started with this Mishnah, this is true and this is true. Leslie is free to choose, even if it's not easy. And so Leslie's actually creating her own results. This is what it means to be created in the image of God. We actually have creative powers, not just of choice, but of the outcome, because the outcome is always just a reflection of the choice. So Leslie's example was just a very illustrative example. Does somebody else want to give it a go? Because I can't, this is such a powerful concept about what it means to have, like, what it really means to be created in the image of God, like what it really actually means, the fact that we're invested with this divine dimension with us means something very enormous, and most of us are very oblivious to it. And that's why the Talmud, or Rav Noach Weinberg used to always quote the Talmud, and we've said it a million times, but this is exactly what it is, that if a homeless person has money, lots and lots of money strapped to the bottom of their boot, but they don't know they have it, then they're no richer. And this is what it means to be human. If we don't know how much power we have, then we don't have more power. But when we realize that God invests of himself in us, rendering us extremely powerful, we realize it's not just that I can make ethical choices. It's that I can actually have a great deal of authority almost over what the results are going to be in my life, and God is still totally in charge of them. Does anybody else want to give CTFAR a go? C stands for circumstance. T stands for thought or perspective of the circumstance. F stands for feeling. A stands for action or inaction or reaction. And R stands for result. Okay, Debbie.
So I'm going to give an example that's just very generic. All right, so let's just say a circumstance would be, you're in a store, you're checking out, and the salesperson is terribly rude to you. That's the circumstance. The thought could naturally be.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, Debbie, to interrupt you. Terribly rude is very, very much your opinion. Can you say it like
Okay.
very?
Let
like
me
a
restate
very
the
without opinion?
circumstances, the salesperson's was rude.
Okay, or yelled at you or whatever
Or,
it is.
okay,
Okay,
yelled at me. The thought, for probably most people, thoughts could be, oh my God, I can't believe the way she's treating me. I'm a customer here. This is not the way to handle a situation. Then you start to feel real angry and you just start boiling up inside for feelings. So your action could be to tell her what you think, or to walk out of the store or something like that. And the result is you really are still feeling this anger. So a way to a different perspective might be circumstance. The sales clerk yelled at me. My thought, I didn't appreciate that, but maybe there's something more going on. Maybe she's having an issue. Maybe it's not her day. I'm sort of leaving that it's affecting me and just sort of turning it around, saying, what is she going through that made her act this way? So my feeling then would be, I feel sorry for her. But I'm not gonna react to it. And the action would be, I'm not reacting to it, let it go, whatever. Maybe even say something kind, like, I'm really sorry you're having a bad day or something, or do something that may instinctively make her feel better. And the result is you walk out and you feel, okay, I tried it. I'm not carrying this with me and I'm going to go on with my day. But just that change of thought of that, not how it's more affecting me, but to look at more in terms of, if this is their problem, they're taking it out on me. And I can't change it.
right. So in the unintentional CTFAR, where we're not awake to the fact that we have this thing called free choice, then she was so rude to me. How could she treat me that way? And the result at the end is like you're walking away with this, pit in your stomach, this sense of like rumination.
Mhm.
So we see here that we actually have control over our emotional results once we understand that we have freedom of choice. So in Debbie's instance, she's capturing this moment in time where we are free to choose. This isn't necessarily just about positive thinking. It's about the power of the human being. Where am I powerful? I can choose my interpretation of the yelling sales lady. I can choose the interpretation, the meaning that I give it. Because so this to me, this Mishnah means, yes, of course, everything we have, everything that happens in our lives and in the world is from the omniscience of God. And yet, and at the same time, we are not only free to choose, we are free to create our own results. We are microcosms of God, even though we're flesh and blood and God is infinite. We have a form of knowledge that is a human form of knowledge. We have a concept of time that's a linear concept of time. God's sense of time is on a qualitatively different plane. But it's that knowledge of the freedom to choose the meaning we give something that creates the whole rest of the shebang, like everything else that follows. This is how powerful we are. So thank you, Debbie. That was just a great, straightforward example of how we create our own results. Yeah, Stephen.
Can we go back to Debbie's example? Supposing you said this isn't all about positive thinking. Supposing I make the choice to say, well, she's just a bitch. I can make that choice too, right?
Mhm.
And then I'm going to have a very different outcome. Right.
What's your point? What are you saying?
What am I saying? I'm
What are you saying? That
all of
I
this-
can choose? Yeah.
but I think the direction that this is heading is that, I have the choice to make things better. But maybe that's not, but we also have the choice not to make things better, right?
Mhm.
And we have the freedom to exercise that.
Yes.
And sometimes as a result of exercising that, things aren't better, right? So,
You're absolutely right. And that's that's really when we began this discussion today. What we understand is God knows everything. The human being has free will, and except for exceptions, God doesn't interfere in the exercise of that free will, which means that you can choose, you are free to choose the thought that will ultimately lead to a negative result.
Right.
right.
But we're supposed to judge people favorably, which Debbie did.
Right.
Well,
And right.
maybe I'm judging her realistically, at least from my
That's who.
perspective, right?
Well, if we go back to Sue's bringing up the also from Pirkei Avot, to be down the kol hadam b'kaf zchut, to judge people on the side of merit. The Mishnah tells us you can't judge another person till you're in their shoes. And the question and the truth is you'll never be in their shoes. So can you say, I know this woman is a bitch? Can you say that? Can you know? You've never been, you can't be in
feel
her
it.
shoes.
You can feel
You
it.
can feel it and you can
Right.
choose to think it, which means you're choosing your result. And you're absolutely right. With exception, God does not interfere in the consequences of the free choice of human beings. Yeah, Linda.
I can imagine a situation where the results are the same, but the thought process might be a little bit different. If, for example, circumstances are, I extend hospitality to people, and the result is I pay for cleaning help before and after they come. I have to come clean up their mess. I have to clean out the food that they left in the refrigerator. They don't say thank you. The result is, the thoughts are, I feel angry. The results are, I just have bad feelings about the situation. I just don't want to, if asked again, I don't want to say yes. So an intentional one would be, okay, this is what happened. Thoughts may be, well, they might have been in a situation where they were just so scatterbrained. I could give them the benefit of the doubt. If I choose to, I could give them a second chance. The reaction may be, or thought is, let's see, the feeling, oh gosh, I'm getting
Right,
mixed up.
if you think, no. If you think the way you just thought, which is, you know what, I'm going to choose, if asked, to give them a second chance, even though I wasn't thrilled.
No, I
then
might
what-
not choose that. I might not choose that. I might
Right.
give them the benefit of the doubt, like, okay, they were in a bad situation. They just weren't thinking about what they were doing. They're actually more well-mannered and more gracious. And if I chose to, I could give them a second chance. However, new circumstances are such that now, instead of having an empty apartment, I have an apartment with fine things in it that's not really set up for small children as an Airbnb. I might choose to respect my own boundaries of what I'm not comfortable lending out, even if they were to pay and all that. I'm not there to see how they would treat my stuff, because it's not my home if I'm not there.
Yeah, okay, so one of the things that's coming up for me about what you're saying is, first of all, this is not exactly what you're saying, but it's connected. You could take this model and say what, and not do the whole thing. Just simply ask yourself, okay, the circumstance happened. They came, they made the mess, and done. You could say to yourself, what result do I want? Do I want a continued relationship with them? Do I want a feeling of like a sense of good energy between us? Do I want to cut off the relationship? Do I want to go separate ways? Starting from what is the result that I want, you can move backwards and say, what would I need to do, action, to get that result? And
Mhm.
then what would I need to feel to take that action? And behind every feeling is a thought. Then what would I need to think in order to feel a certain way that'll make me act and create the kind of result that I'm looking for? In other words, you have that godly power in the sense of you can say, what is the result that I want? Let's use Leslie's example or Debbie's example. Let's say Leslie says, you know what? I have a lot of feelings and struggles in my relationship with my mother. But at the end of the day, especially as she's getting older, I want closeness, okay? I want a feeling of closeness and connection. What do I need to do to create closeness and connection? Oh, good, I'm glad. Oh, what do I need to do to create that closeness? I need to be lighthearted about the gift. What do I need to do? What do I need to feel to be lighthearted about the gift? I need to feel calm. What do I need to do to feel calm? What do I need to think to feel calm? I need to think that she's doing the best she can. In other words, it gives us this degree of freedom. We could take it from the end result and go back. So Linda, maybe the best question for you is, what is given that you can't control their behavior, you can't control if they leave food in the fridge and if they leave things messy, you can't control the circumstance. What is the result that you want with these people? Now, if Linda can say, they actually play an important role in our family's life, I'm going to choose to, I want a result of like a good energy between us. Okay, let me move backwards. What do I have to do? I have to write a text saying, I'm so glad you came. You know, what do I need to do to feel that way? Okay, I need to feel calm and non-ruminating. Okay, what do you need to think to be calm and not ruminating? I need to think, I wouldn't do that, but I have no clue what's going on for them. I'm going to let it go, kind of like Debbie's let it go or Leslie's let it go. And the circumstance is still the same. They were sloppy. So the reason I'm bringing up like a coaching exercise in the middle of our Pirkei Avot class is that there are two things that are contradictory and completely true. We have total free choice and God knows exactly what we're going to do. We are in charge of our results and God controls everything. And they're both true. I don't mean to say that we can control everything. We can't control a lot of things, weather, sickness. There's a lot we can't control, but it's amazing how much we are in charge of our results. And it's because of the Mishnah that came before it. Blessed is God, for beloved is man, for he was created, but Selam Elohim. That's what it means. So yes, to Stephen's point, I could choose to think a negative thought. That's what free choice means. And I can choose to not get the results that I want, or maybe I want negative results, but I have much more control over results than I believe because of this quality of choice within me that is in fact absolutely godly and infinite in its essence.
Ellie,
Yeah.
I was going to say something else, but I changed my mind. So I am doing a book for book club for my Arizona book club. And the book is called The Choice.
The
And
choice?
it's by, oh
Yeah.
my God. What it is, it's the woman's name, the author is
Edith
Oh,
Eger.
Dr. Edith Egar.
Yeah.
And she's a Holocaust survivor. And the name of the book is The Choice because she always had to make choices. And, you know, like, she actually worked with Viktor Frankl, which is one of my heroes. and he was her mentor. And she talks about what it was like after the Holocaust and making decisions whether to move to Israel or move to America. And then she went back to school and she studied therapy. You know, she's a PhD, she's a therapist. And I have learned so much from that book about making choices. So
Yes.
I would recommend, I don't know if you heard of this book, Ellie?
Oh, yeah, I love it. We all read it. We loved it. Everybody loved it. I can't say we loved it. I certainly loved it.
Okay, so now the thing I was struggling with, I should say anything, is I am, you know, I just had surgery and I'm fine. I'm 100% cancer free. So that's very good news. But I have a person that I know, and I've always been very, very good to her. And now that I went through what I went through, she was really a person that was not there for me. Okay. And obviously, I'm not going to mention the name, but it really upset me. And my brother's a psychiatrist, so, and he's very smart, just like his sister. But, you know what he always says to me? The only person you can control is yourself. You know, I cannot control how she treats me. I'm not going to ask her why she treats me like that. I just know how she treats, how I feel, you know. And, you know, at the end of the day, I have free choice to decide how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thank you, Hannah. That's really a powerful example. I'm so happy that everything is well and healthy. It should, Michael, you should continue to be healthy and well.
it was a very scary thing, but
But
I'm
you're
doing great. And some of the women on the call now actually bought me food, and I still have some food left. I have some schnitzels left. So, anyway, I just thought I would share the two
Yeah.
things.
that
One
book is right. Very right. Absolutely. Okay, guys, I actually have a client, but Stephen, I have a minute. You were going to say something.
I'll communicate to you differently.
No, do you want in a minute or two? You want to say it?
No, I don't think I want to say it in a minute or two. I think it's something that
Okay.
would be a little bit more
I look forward to the email.
Okay.
Goodbye, everybody. By the way, some of you know CTFAR because I've talked to you about it and we've heard about it. If you haven't done it yourself, try it. Do an unintentional CTFAR, meaning where you when you're not awake to the fact that you have free choice, like where it will go. It'll go toward the hurt that Hannah felt toward her friend. It'll go toward the exasperation toward the sales lady that Debbie talked about. It will go toward Leslie's anger or Linda's frustration with these guests. Build it unintentionally and then wake up to this incredible thing called free choice and build an intentional CTFAR and see just how much power you have to create the results of your life and report back. Maybe in our next class, we'll just do like a few minutes about people's findings. But if you can do an unintentional CTFAR, circumstances trigger thoughts, which cause feelings. Feelings cause our action, what we do or what we don't do, or how we react. And how we react leads to our results. So build an unintentional one where you go when you're really not aware of free choice, and build an intentional one when you wake up and you say, I can choose my response. And let's report back
Wait,
next time we
Ellie,
meet.
so the first one is circumstance, what's the second?
C stands for circumstance.
Right.
T stands for thought, or the
Okay.
meaning we give the circumstance. So let's just use Debbie's example. A lady at store yells. Okay, thought is whatever, right? So the thought that I have creates my feeling. The circumstances don't make us feel a certain way, like Leslie said. It's the meaning we give the circumstance that makes me feel a certain way. The way I feel creates what I'm going to do about it, my behavior, my action or my reaction. And the way I react leads to my results. So circumstance Make sure it's neutral. It doesn't have any opinion or feeling in it. So when Debbie said she was really, really like incredibly rude, I said, Debbie, change it to she yelled, because you want to make it as neutral as possible. So circumstance, thought, feeling, action or inaction, result.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's yeah. Okay. All right, everybody.
Yeah,
Lots of love
bye.
and happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving to one and all.
Yep,
Thank you.
thanks. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Yes,
Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Gobble, gobble.